Good news, everyone! Talking Futurama is coming back for Talking Futurama Season 2, Part 2.
Fresher than a summer ham, this podcast comes every Friday. And if you sign up at the $5 level at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons, you can hear each episode as it goes live.
That's right, sign up today at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons for $5 to hear Talking Futurama every Friday throughout the rest of 2020 and also all the previous episodes we've done so far.
So head over to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons now, or we're going to clamp you.
Shut up and take my money.
Cartoons from present and the past. Every week will be an animated bash. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! Maybe a short but mostly shows. We'll talk, we'll analyze, exploring as we go. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What a Cartoon, where we throw a big party for a big smarty. I'm one of your hosts, the super smart, sinister villain with the big fleshy head, Bob Mackey, and this is an audio exploration of every cartoon ever who is here with me today.
Hey, it's Henry Gilbert, and I'm not leaving this podcast until someone chases me.
Today's episode is the Freakazoid episode, Dexter's Date.
Have a good time now!
So yes, after nearly 2 years, we're revisiting Freakazoid, but this time Season 2, where things change very slightly. The format changes maybe 23%.
Well, they wanted, I think it was a reaction to being told, let's change a lot. And they're like, well, we'll change some surface level things, but get even crazier in the end. But yeah, it was June 2018 that we last did Freakazoid, a patron request that was a lot of fun, but we talked about the first season a whole lot. And Season 2, even zanier, and I definitely like Season 2 more than Season 1. Season 1's great and has some better animation, but Season 2, really great.
I'm a bit conflicted because I think the show works better as 6 or 7 minute cartoons instead of 22-minute cartoons, but I do like some of the reining in of Freakazoid, although you can feel the executive pressure on the show in this first episode, but this episode is kind of a middle finger to those executives.
Yes.
Because it's doing a lot of crazy stuff that I'm sure they did not want them to do, but they have the Steven Spielberg. Hey, Steven thought it was funny,
yeah,
so
Steven
we can just do whatever we want.
They can just do it, but Steven's deal is about to end with Warner anyway, and so this is the sunset of that era, sadly.
I can imagine Jamie Kellner on the phone to Steven Spielberg on the set of The Lost World, like, Steven, they're doing this Hello Dolly thing. I don't get it. And Steven's just like, I think it's funny. Goodbye. Click.
They tell me it's funny. I gotta go. Yeah, I think I can understand why this only was 11 episodes and just dumped, and also like 2 episodes didn't even air.
Oh,
on Kids
really?
WB.
Okay.
Yeah,
This ended in '96 this season, right? With Earthworm Jim.
The last one that aired on Kids WB was in early '97 because they kind of shuffled it around a little bit. They didn't just go straight 13 or 9 weeks in a row. But,
because we did Earthworm Jim, an episode of that for Retronauts, which is essentially a What a Cartoon, and that last hour of Kids WB was the older kid hour, but I think they just wanted that eliminated because they didn't want the older kids, because the older kids meant stone college students and adults.
Yeah, who don't buy toys. Now older kids do buy toys, and the demos have changed entirely. Actually, there's a really great Earthworm Jim joke on Freakazoid.
Oh, yes.
In Season 2, Joe Leahy does more and more stuff, the announcer, and in one bit where Freakazoid is like, you've copped a real attitude lately, I can replace you with the Earthworm Jim guy like that, which is also funny because Earthworm Jim guy is Jeff Bennett, who just does that voice as Captain Victory on Freakazoid.
He is on Freakazoid.
I love Captain Victory, but he's one of the many good jokes that you just don't get to do in Season 2.
Is it Lord Bravery?
Lord Bravery, yes.
Did he try to name himself Captain Victory?
I bet that came up in that entire sketch is just about trying to name something that isn't copywritten, which all the writers probably had to do in the show.
Basically just them writing a Monty Python sketch.
Yeah.
But I guess to explain to the listeners, if you don't know the differences between the Freakazoid seasons, Season 1 was a bunch of sort of another version of Animaniacs, where Freakazoid was the center. He was the anchor, but then there are other characters and other stories. It was more of a high concept show because it was mostly about genre parodies and also fucking with the format, with episodes like Screamo-Vision and Relaxo-Vision and things like that. There was rarely ever a straightforward story with a traditional ending.
I think it brought to superheroes what Animaniacs brought to mostly Disney or classic Warner tunes and commenting on those. As we talked about in the last one, it started as a more straightforward superhero show that then in the last second changed entirely.
All of these Bruce Timm actors are forced to do zany things now.
Yeah, they took the toys that Bruce Timm built and then they're like, well, they do this now. Blah, 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 blah. We're going to make him make silly noises for 30 seconds straight. Yeah, this one, I think I saw this one when it premiered, or at least in the run on Kids WB. This episode came out the day after I turned 14.
Ooh,
so
big day.
Perfect age to watch the show.
This was the first fall I was in high school, and I remember watching this and being slightly confused but entertained and thinking, I hope I can watch cartoons forever. It's I was slightly insecure at that point, having just entered high school.
High school is no fun, as Dexter shows off in this very episode.
It was a preview of my life as a nerd.
But yeah,
a young nerd.
I definitely watched this season on and off, but when I really dove into it was during 1997 and maybe into 98 when Cartoon Network actually made it like a primetime show for them.
Me too. I think I missed most of season 2. When there were gaps between episodes, I sort of fell off.
Yeah, I bet it was doing good enough on Cartoon Network that if Cartoon Network actually spent the kind of money that Kids WB had to spend on Freakazoid, they could have done a third season, but they only crossed that barrier with that kind of big budget original production in 01 with the Justice League show. Because, like, we love Dexter and Powerpuff Girls and all that, but you can tell a different level of budget is in Freakazoid versus them.
And in season 2 also, it's a bit more low concept, although it's wacky as hell. But usually an episode will be Freakazoid and a villain, which was never, ever the case in the first season. There would be little short cartoons, but never a traditional hero versus villain story.
Yeah, I remember like the first episode of Freakazoid, the premiere episode that aired, it teases, it's like a fight at the prom. And then the entire time, they spend two whole minutes of just Rugg improvising as Jerry Lewis, just going like, everybody down on the ground. It was just silliness. The joke was, why would Freakazoid fight a supervillain? That wouldn't happen.
And the Lobe, this is his big episode because he was in the first season. He's in the intro, of course, too. But I looked in the first 2 episodes he was in the first season were short cartoons. One was the format-breaking one, Relaxovision, where you would not see the violent scenes or the disturbing scenes. They would play Theme from a Summer Place.
Yes, that's
and have
right,
footage of just ocean waves or whatever. It was live action, of course. And then there was another like super short cartoon where the Lobe was operating on Freakazoid's brain to see what made him so crazy, and there was a bomb inside.
That's right.
And it blows up. It's a kind of crappy cartoon, but it ate up 90 seconds and it looked nice.
I think he turned into the Lex Luthor of Freakazoid this season, mostly because they love David Warner and working with him, which, I mean, of course they do. David Warner rules. He's such a great actor, still with us at 79. He'd been doing basically the same character. It's funny, he was playing an arch-villain on this as Ra's al Ghul on Batman stuff, and the Archmage on Gargoyles. So it was almost like a parody of the shows he was being cast in at the same time.
He sounds like a very important actor, and I always thought he was, but then when I got older and looked him up, he was just in so many B movies. I mean, he is the villain in Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze.
That's right. No, he's their friend.
He's their friend?
He helps them understand the ooze.
I haven't seen it in about 20 years, so.
Well, I just learned about a bit of trivia recently that originally it was going to be revealed in the film that his character was Krang, and he had brought the ooze from Dimension X, but they decided not to do that. So no,
I would have
Krang.
appreciated that in that movie.
As a little kid, I loved both the first and second TMNT movies, but I kept waiting for Bebop, Rocksteady, and Krang to show up, and I got none of my favorite cartoon characters, just the Shredder. But yeah, no, he's also so good, and like that's the thing, he brought this level of respectability to all of this, like not just trash, but also genre things that are viewed as lesser. Like he's in one of the best Star Trek Next Gen episodes ever. Like him and Patrick Stewart play off each other so well when he's like torturing him. And same with him as the villain in Time Bandits.
That's
like,
right.
He's so good in that too. Like David Warner is the greatest in everything. Every time I hear his voice, I'm just happy. But yeah, I guess quick version of the history that takes us to season 2, in case you missed that episode, is Bruce Timm, after the success of the Batman show, was going to work on an action show with Steven Spielberg. That stalled out. They're just like creative differences. Bruce Timm moved on to other projects, but Kids WB needs every show they can get. And so since they've got all of these pieces in place, they just turn to Tom Ruegger and his Animaniacs team and say, "Can you rework this into 13 episodes for 1995? You have less than a year." And somehow they did it. And the main way they did it is that Tom Ruegger turned to Animaniacs writers Paul Rugg and John McCann and several others and just said, "Can you figure out what to do with this?" And that's also how you end up with writer Paul Rugg, who had incidental appearances in Animaniacs as Jerry Lewis mostly, him then becoming the lead in the series.
And it does feel almost like an improvised cartoon, but I think Paul Rugg has a pretty big background in improv.
Yes, yeah, he's from the Groundlings. Yeah. So he brings a ton of that to it, which, now when I watch most American cartoons, I feel like at least one or two voices I hear in a kid's cartoon these days is somebody who I first heard as an improv actor on a podcast. I was just watching some of Close Enough, and I was like, well, there's a James Madomian, there's Nicole Byer, there's Lauren Lapkus, every voice I know.
You can count on them to make a line funnier.
Yeah, they're always funnier. But yeah, so they make a very wacky season 1, which definitely feels like Animaniacs, but even zanier and a little older because the main character is a teenager. There's more outright jokes about kissing babes and also far more insider jokes about, Hollywood contracts or being friend zoned in that episode we did.
And what the word toyetic means.
Toyetic. And lip sync, like let's watch the lip sync, all that stuff. But by the end of season 1, as we also talk about in the upcoming Batman Beyond podcast that we've already recorded.
Time is funny.
Jean McCurdy, a supporter of the Animaniacs Tom Ruegger goofery, she was losing power, and the man in charge of the entire WB, Jamie Kellner, was gaining power. And while I couldn't find people, unlike with Batman Beyond, in the many interviews I've seen Rugg give, he doesn't directly say Jamie Kellner changed this, but he does say all the same stuff that Bruce Timm said about why his Batman show got canceled. You're not in the correct demos, and you got to adjust. That's the rules.
Can Freakazoid hang out with Elmira? How would you feel about that?
Those poor people that have to put Elmira in everything just because one guy likes her.
And this season only has 11 episodes, which feels like an odd order. It feels like some were cut or something like that.
I heard in their tantalizingly annoying 5 minutes of commentary, but they kept saying, and there's multiple jokes in it too, they were always short. And I could totally see that they were given an adjusted budget for season 2, less. They couldn't hit those budgets, and by the end, they're just like, then we're cutting 2 episodes. If you can't hit your budget restrictions, then that money goes away. We're just taking it from those 2 episodes. So I could see that.
This is a gorgeous episode of Freakazoid.
It really is, yeah. The overseas all of this season was handled by Coco, who we also talked a lot about in the Batman Beyond thing, but they were producing so much. When I looked at all the stuff they were doing from 94 to 97, clearly TMS was like, hey, we're priced out of this now, and it was Coco's good fortune.
I might have misspoke on the last podcast 2 years ago because I think I just assumed TMS did a little work on Freakazoid, but no, they were kind of TMS adjacent studios that were working on things like the opening, and I believe the Chip parts 1 and 2 were a Japanese studio, but at this point in time, it was very, very expensive to get a Japanese studio to work on your American cartoon.
Yeah, I think I goofed on that too, but yeah, you took me, alerted me to the Animal House, the animation studio for mainly responsible for the opening and the pilot that then ended up not being the pilot that aired later in the season. But this season's all Coco, I believe, if not, or a mix of Coco and Dong Yang, I think. But yeah, so it's season 2. Clearly adjustments were asked to be made because, and as Rugg talked about in many places, he's been so active on social media. It's been very helpful. But if you look at season 2, you'll see that they clearly had a retooling notes about full-length episodes, which Pinky and the Brain were doing. And maybe they were even thinking could this go into prime time Pinky and the Brain? Then it can't be segments. It's got to be full length.
I'm surprised they never tried that.
Wait. In one of the first episodes, Freakazoid even has a joke about we could have been prime time, but no.
That's right.
And also they slimmed down the cast, and also his alter ego of Dexter Douglas basically vanishes. They make a joke in the 3rd episode that multiple characters just learn a secret identity so they can change the character dynamics.
That Dexter Douglas stuff really feels like a remnant of the old show. It was never important. He was never funny. I mean, it was him being a pathetic nerd was funny, but you were just waiting for Freakazoid Freakazoid to show up.
I totally think that comes from the Alan Burnett and Tim vision of the show of like, yeah, he's gonna have, you know, the typical Spider-Man secret identity stuff, the nerd who turns into the cool guy. Like, that was their vision of it.
He was a real Peter Parker character.
But I think after a while they're like, why are we don't like writing stuff for Dexter. He's not funny. He's boring. Freakazoid's funny, and if Dexter says lines, then Freakazoid can't say lines. So, but let's just dump him. And also other characters kind of swap, like Steph, who was just like, this is like the last episode, she's just the put upon girlfriend or love interest, instead of like a partner in crime for a freak. Like she helps him a lot in other episodes this season.
And she is a real Bruce Timm style babe.
Oh, yes, yeah. I mean, you can see it was some girl he had a crush on in high school. But yeah, you see all these changes that are made. They also like get rid of Ingmar the butler. Like, clearly, I think they got a note of like, this mute butler's not funny. It's a one joke thing. They're like, fine, we'll replace him with Dr. Smith from Lost in Space. How do you like that?
That was a good change.
But I do think after getting those notes, while technically by the letter of the law going by them, they got a much more aggressive in their obscureness, and that begins with this episode's musical sequence.
Yes, and we were trying to decide which episode to pick for this second revisit of Freakazoid, and I chose this one because how audacious it is with this choice of the second act. And I don't know if we can spoil it up front, or do you want to talk about it?
Let's talk about it.
Okay, yeah. So it was something I didn't realize what they were doing until I saw when I was unemployed for one of the main times in my life. I rewatched all of Freakazoid because it's what you do. And I love this episode, and I was like, I want to find out what they're doing here, because for over 4 minutes, the Loeb has a whole entire song and dance, and it's so long and so gloriously animated. And I was like, this has to be a parody of something. So I looked it up, and it's a parody of the titular song from Hello, Dolly. And it wasn't until even more recently that I realized it's basically a shot-for-shot remake of that entire sequence, but with a parody of that song.
Yeah.
For 12-year-olds in 1996.
It makes no sense if you haven't seen the film, but it's amazing how long it lasts. And yeah, I think the time it hit me was, I definitely had not seen Hello, Dolly when I watched this episode. It lasts so long. I thought, well, this has to be some sort of reference. That The Simpsons had trained my brain enough to go like, if something goes this long and it seems so specific, it must be something, but I had no clue.
Yeah.
I think within 3 or 4 years after seeing that, just from general channel surfing, I came across Hello, Dolly playing on like Turner Classic Movies or something. In that song, she approaches Louis Armstrong.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, that's the shot for, oh my God. That's when it hit me that it was so, but only this time, truly watching the side-by-side comparisons, do you see how much effort they put into it.
It's sort of like the Simpsons rake joke with Sideshow Bob stepping on the rakes. It's like a fun way to waste your time, but in this case, it's the most extravagant time waster. And it's different than Family Guy, because Family Guy will just do the song. In this one, they're writing a parody.
Yeah.
I think it's different than that. It's more of there's more effort put into wasting your time, but they were kind of the first to do this sort of thing.
I mean, yes, you're right. On Family Guy, spiritually, it does follow this kind of example with, I'd say the best example would be Peter singing Shapoopy from The Girl Who's Hard to Get, that song. And I mean, honestly, I can't shit on Family Guy too much. It's a fun sequence, but they didn't write a brand new song for it that is a full-length parody of Hello, Dolly.
And it feels like the rest of the show is built to support the sequence. I feel like they thought of the sequence first and wrote the entire show around it, because they have to go to the location where the sequence takes place. And the Loeb has a reason to be there, both in terms of, the logistics of the story and, his personality. So it's not just, let's cut away to the Loeb doing this entire song. It's he's in the world doing it.
Yeah, it's the perfect example of the entire way Freakazoid came to be, that this was a regular ass episode written by Alan Burnett, probably one of like their earliest scripts of like, who hasn't heard of a million comic book stories about like the superhero has to go on a date but also save the day. So it is a very standard one of those stories that they're kind of fixing it onto. That's the more boring part of the episode, like his constant changes. I'm like, that's all right. But it was an 11-minute script. So to get it to the 22 they needed, and really, I think they got it to like 19, and then they put another parody at the start of this episode. But yeah, I think it was just Paul Rudd rewriting a regular-ass superhero script that Alan Burnett gave him.
And we'll talk more about that sequence later, but upon rewatching it for the first time in, like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years, I'm still surprised by how long it goes on. Like, wow, there's another verse.
Every time, it's just like, you feel like, okay, I'm going down, and oh my God, they're doing it again. Yeah, and season 2 is full of that stuff. Like, there's a full parody of The Godfather, like the opening of The Godfather, almost shot for shot. There's parodies of the original 60s Astro Boy cartoon. There's parodies of also then recent films like 1996's Island of Dr. Moreau and Congo. Like them just watching Congo and saying, like, is that a man in a suit or a monkey? And one of the most, actually even more obscure than Hello Dolly, I had forgotten this one until rewatching it. In that Dr. Moreau episode, Freakazoid is him and Cosgrove are flying an airplane full of villains somewhere. And they are sitting at the controls. And if you look at it, you're like, oh, if you've seen Plan 9 from Outer Space, you know that them at the controls is framed like it. And then walking into the scene is Steph in the stewardess outfit that the woman wears in Plan 9. And she says, that was quite a jolt, freak. But she says it in such a weird way, like, that's quite a jolt, freak. Because that's how the woman says, it was quite a jolt, Jeff, after they see. I couldn't believe it. It's just like, this is one line that who possibly could remember it from Plan 9 from Outer Space? And they have her say it 4 times in the episode.
Wow, they're a big fan of repetition, especially in this one. I think they had a lot of fun saying, oh, we could just reuse that clip again and just make people laugh out of nowhere. Yeah, actually, in the explanation as to why they did this at the end of the episode, the text explanation that goes by very fast, there's a Plan 9 reference in that as well.
Wow.
The Solo Night bomb that threatened the writing staff.
Wow. All this stuff is so, like, this is the nerds when now cartoon shows reference Freakazoid. It's the same as these baby boomer writers referencing Plan 9 back then.
When I watch Freakazoid, I think of, oh, this is everything Dana Gould loves and is obsessed with.
Freakazoid has to be his favorite show, right?
Why did he not write for Freakazoid? He was probably watching it.
He was too good for it. No way would he do that.
He was too busy starring in Working.
Yeah, actually, he was on Working at the time.
Until he was no longer working.
I bet he was friends with Paul Rudd. I bet they've talked to each other. I'll say
I think so. At least one party.
And also an episode that is clearly about them going to the 1996 San Diego Comic-Con and having no one ask them questions about anything Freakazoid, and it's just super bad. I watched an interview with co-writer with Rugg, John McCon, who also Paul Rugg posted on his Instagram. He made the same joke there of like, yeah, we're not in the key demos. We're mainly popular, with prisoners and people in mental institutions, and they don't buy things. They don't have any buying power.
The criminally insane. I think they said they got a lot of letters from prison.
Yes. And also often they would do jokes about how this episode came in short and Joe Leahy is going to just talk over something. Also, Joe Leahy just became a major character in the show who would just appear on screen as himself and be like, no, I'm trying to stretch out into other acting stuff. They're like, all right, Joe, just say the line again. Come on.
I think they had a lot of fun with editing more than Animaniacs and Tiny Toons, where, again, they had the mom, have a good time now.
Yeah.
And the henchman going, that is one happy man.
Yeah, I think out of function to fill time, they're like, well, we got to reuse a shot again. And they're like, okay, then what's a fun line that we just liked hearing said? Like, let's just do that. Let's just show it again. It's fun to hear it again. Well, just like, that was quite a jolt, freak. That's quite a jolt, freak. I never knew what she said until looking it up this time. And I had to do a lot of research. And yes, they also had Jonathan Harris, Dr. Smith himself, play himself, but not, well, he played a butler, and everybody knows he's Dr. Smith and he hates it. But here's an interview with him being asked about what was his favorite voice acting appearance, and it also explains what happened with season 2.
Yes. One of my great favorites is called Freakazoid, and that was Warner Brothers. And it was written by 2 brilliant guys who really went so far afield, they were off the wall. And Warner Brothers didn't understand any of that. So they canceled us. they didn't have a clue, Jeff, what these two brilliant guys were writing, and what we who were in the cast adored, because it was off the wall and really very adult and very childlike as well. And so they canceled us. Oh, God, I tell you sometimes.
Oh, the pain.
He basically did say that, yeah.
God.
I tell you sometimes, these people in Hollywood, I do not like them.
I like that Jonathan Harris was a fan of Freakazoid. I believe he did a voice on Ren and Stimpy as well, or something like that. He was doing like fun, wacky cartoons at the time.
Oh man, in Toy Story, he's in Toy Story 2, and Bug's Life. He's in that as well.
Yeah, it's like the magician bug.
Yeah, just hearing him, I mean, that really shows you that he actually enjoyed it, because Jonathan Harris did so many things and unprompted, and like, it doesn't earn him anything in Hollywood to say like, oh, and I loved Freakazoid, like, because all these people don't have hiring power. So that's what I love about it too. It's just him being honest. He's just like, these stupid executives at Warner, they didn't know what they were doing. But that pretty much explains it all, that they were making a show that was too smart and not for the kids, and Warner didn't get it and they canceled it. And so I have found out since the last time we recorded this from Rugg telling the story that when they were writing the 11th episode of it, Normstradamus of season 2, they knew it was the last one. They were very aware, like, this production is going so badly, we are not going to be renewed. And so that's why the episode ends with them singing, "We'll meet again."
Yeah.
And he tells the story of, Rugg tells the story of begging Gene McCurdy. He's like, I know we never license songs, but please, please give us the money for this. And when they did it, it's a whole cast reunion and everybody singing it. Rugg says they didn't fake that. They're like, no, everybody's here today and we're going to sing the song. Even Ricardo Montalban was there to sing "We'll Meet Again."
That rules. Going out with a Dr. Strangelove reference.
But the joke was on Rugg ultimately, because that episode and the 10th one didn't even air on Kids WB. It would air 3 months later. The last one aired in February, and it was May when Cartoon Network finally aired that episode.
Wow, it was that quick. Yeah, I remember recording them on Cartoon Network when they went to that channel. And then if you go onto YouTube and look for clips, they all have the Cartoon Network bug in the corner.
Yeah, that's because at least Cartoon Network saved it in that way. But even more ironic, after being canceled, their episode Hero Boy won the Emmy that year.
It did?
For its category, yes.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
It was a canceled show that won the Emmy. The year before, their theme song won the Emmy too.
Yeah, oh, okay, yeah. It was, so whenever I watch Freakazoid, the theme song's in my head for, I don't know, 4 months afterwards, trying to go to bed, singing it in my head. It was causing me problems.
Since the last time we recorded this, Paul Rugg, he not only went viral with his cute chihuahua, Lucky, R.I.P. Lucky, but also he got the lead in the Henson Company talk show Earth to Ned, which I watched every episode of. And one, it's just fun to hear Paul Rugg improvising as a character. And also, like, it's a fine sketch show. Like, it's a fine parody of a late night comedy show. Will you have to see an episode with Gina Carano and a couple other people that I don't like seeing? Sure, yes. But they didn't know. They were just having on the new Disney person when they recorded with Gina Carano.
You're not crazy, right? Come on, sit down next to the alien.
But it is a fun show that also our podcast buddy Jordan Morris wrote for, and Nick Weiger. Yeah.
Both friends of the show.
Also, since then, last year, November 14th of 2020, Teen Titans Go aired an entire 11-minute episode called Hugbees, which is a massive tribute to Freakazoid. Paul Rugg returns to play Freakazoid. Joe Leahy returns to be the announcer, and David Warner returns to play the Lobe. And Cosgrove is in it, but I wanted to believe it was Ed Asner, but it was not.
It's a good imitator. I don't know if he's voice acting anymore.
He's very old.
He's very, very old. I mean, he was in his 70s doing this.
Yeah, that's true. Let the man rest.
Yeah, and we talked about it on our Animaniacs podcast for the 2020 reboot, but he said no to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very clear intentional move. Rugg has I think he's trying to be nice. He famously, we talked about that Animaniacs episode, that he had posted a video he instantly took down of saying, like, if you're not doing this with Tom Ruger somehow involved, then it's not Animaniacs and it's not Tiny Toons. And while he took it down, I definitely think he feels that way still. I mean, I found him talking about the Teen Titans episode, and he's like, yeah, they sent me a script and I really liked it. And I was like, yeah, I'll come back. Like, so it's not that he never wants to play Freakazoid again or work with Warner again, but I do think he clearly doesn't want to work on Animaniacs again if his mentor Tom Ruegger isn't given a slot in there as well.
And so far there's no news of a reboot or anything, but I forget when they announced the Tiny Toons reboot, but I feel like everything is being rebooted just fine. It's fine. Just bring it back. It's fine. If Paul Rudd is there doing funny voices, I'm okay with it. And make it look as good as Animaniacs on Hulu. That's good too.
Yeah, maybe, why doesn't that Teen Titans Go team just make a whole Freakazoid like miniseries?
Yeah, the kids need to know about Freakazoid.
They need to learn. Yeah, I hate to know that like a film from 1970 is as old as when Freakazoid premiered as Freakazoid is now. Like,
ooh, yeah, like a modern Freakazoid could just do a bunch of dated 90s and 80s jokes that the Animaniacs didn't do. One of my major problems with that new series is not enough dated humor for the kids.
Yeah, they gotta shove it in your face. Like Animaniacs also did then contemporary jokes. For sure they did, as did Freakazoid in 1996. This episode has Oprah and Letterman jokes in it, but the stuff you actually remember is references to very obscure old things. But yeah, so that's everything that's going on with Freakazoid these days. Definitely follow Paul Rudd on Twitter and Instagram if you want new information or just old stuff on Freakazoid. Like he
answered my question last night
instantly. Like he was very responsive, that Paul Rudd is. I mean, if he wants to get the news out on Earth to Net and hopefully get it renewed for another season, part of it is being social media engaged. But yeah, so that's the history of season 2 of Freakazoid. Why don't we take a break, and when we come back we will talk about Dexter's Date.
Super team extraordinaire, Freakazoid, Freakazoid, runs around in underwear, Freakazoid, Freakazoid, rescues Washington DC, Freakazoid, Freakazoid, tell us something better's on TV, Freakazoid, Freakazoid, his brain's overloaded, it has a chocolate coating, textbook case for Sigmund Freud, Freakazoid, Freakazoid.
Check out Dexter Douglas, your computer ace, when surfing on the internet, then was dashed to cyberspace, he turned into the Freakazoid. Strong and super quick. He drives the villains crazy, cause he's a lunatic.
His home base is the Freakaland, Freakazoid, Freakazoid, Floyd the barber cuts his hair, Freakazoid, chimpanzee, rides around in a Freakomobile, Freakazoid, Freakazoo, hopes to make a movie deal, Freaka-me, Freaka-you, he's here to save the nation, so stay tuned to this station. If not, we'll be unemployed, Freakazoid, Freakazoid, Freakazoid.
And now some messages from those really nice people who pay our bills. He's America's freakiest, most outrageous superhero.
Give me smoochy smooch.
And he's making his second appearance in prime time.
No! Get us out of here! Help me! Help!
Freakazoid, right after Pinky and the Brain, Sunday.
Welcome to the break, and we're feeling higher than a kite. It's Henry Gilbert.
Hey everybody, it's Bob Mackey. Floyd the barber doesn't cut my hair because he died in 1969. True fact.
And so much fun talking this week to return to the world of Freakazoid. It's always fun for us to come back to a cartoon we previously covered on What a Cartoon, and we're only able to do that as our full-time jobs and indulge in something as indulgent as Bonjour Lobby. Thanks to the support of patrons like you at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
That's right. If you go to patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, sign up there at the $5 level, you get all the episodes 1 week ahead of time and ad-free, and also access to everything behind the $5 paywall. That includes everything we put behind that paywall for the nearly 4 years we've been doing this Patreon. And that includes mini-series like Talking Critic, Talking of the Hill, Talking Mission Hill, Talking Futurama. And coming very soon at the end of March, on March 26th, we are launching Talking of the Hill Season 2 Part 1. 11 new episodes of Talking of the Hill coming at you behind the $5 paywall. For people behind that paywall only, you'll get to hear so many new episodes of Talking of the Hill until the beginning of the early summer months. We have so many other things going on behind that paywall, too many to list here, but if you sign up today, you'll get access to them all immediately. So much to catch up on. If you like hearing our voices, there's so many podcasts you haven't heard yet. And we also have a $10 level. If you sign up for that, you get all the $5 stuff, of course, but also access to one mega-long podcast once a month, only for patrons of that level or higher. And what is that, Henry?
You're talking about the What a Cartoon movie podcast. If you're a regular listener on the free feed to What a Cartoon, you may have noticed that at the end of every month, we do a movie, but you only get to hear us talk for about 45 minutes on it, like you just heard with the Studio Ghibli 1995 film Whisper of the Heart. If you want to hear the entire thing of that podcast, which was over 4.5 hours of wonderful cartoony content, you got to sign up at the $10 level at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. That premium level gets you access to over 2 years of classic What a Cartoon podcasting contest covering films as diverse as Wallace and Gromit, Curse of the Were-Rabbit, Tiny Toon Adventures, How I Spent My Vacation, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Akira, and coming very soon, hey, we just talked about a 1990s animated show for this whole podcast. At the end of the month, we're talking about the 1990 animated film DuckTales, the movie. You want to hear all of that and all the other $5 stuff, so please sign up at $10 a month, patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
And if you've never signed up for Patreon before, it's so easy to do. And once you do sign up, you're given access to a code you can access whenever you want. You just drop that code into whatever you use to listen to podcasts. And that way you can download our bonus podcast alongside your free podcast as part of your podcasting lifestyle. And there is also an app that Patreon has for any smart device. You just download that for free. And that way you can download our bonus content that way. But either way you do it, it is so easy to access all the bonus content waiting for you at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
So thanks again for listening, everybody. Check all that out. And now let's say bonjour, Lobie, together on this week's What a Cartoon.
Don't dawdle now. The next stop on our Kids WB tour is Steven Spielberg presents Freakazoid. Finally, a show that stars me. It's about time.
When evil rears its ugly head, Freakazoid will save the day.
But first, I'd like to thank all the villains on our show. Hold on, Steph. There's Cobra Queen, Milkman, Deadpan, and lots more. Aren't they cute? Not now, Steph. Thanks to you bad guys, I have a job. Kleenex.
My hero.
Freakazoid, next on Kids WB.
Hello, I'm back with my show.
Sleeping, creeping, leaping down the street. Freakazoid's the humanoid who simply can't be beat. He'll fight day and night to defeat a fiendish foe. So let's begin as we begin
A Steven Spielberg show.
Aw, freak.
Welcome back from the break, everybody. You got to hear, taking us in, not the normal Freakazoid theme, but the opening that is a Beanie and Cecil parody.
Yeah.
of
It's
this
interesting.
episode.
I forgot about this little segment here in that it does feel like a way to tell the audience, well, this is what Freakazoid does now. Freakazoid fights villains. And also, at the end, it shows you Steven Spielberg said this was okay.
Yes,
So if you don't like what you see, or if you think that we lied to the network telling them what the show's about, Steven said it's okay. We're his puppets.
Yes, we are literally his puppets. Again, watching it, I had this tingle in the back of my head of like, is this Beanie and Cecil? Then when I rewatched the old Beanie and Cecil opening, I'm like, oh, it 100%. It is specifically not only the presentation of characters, but at the end of it, the puppet of Cecil, they go, and it's a Bob Clampett cartoon. And then Cecil licks Bob Clampett's face, just as Freakazoid does here.
Well, I'm not 70.
I know, that's, yeah. I mean,
I'm familiar with the John K. reboot that I'm still kind of too young for.
Yeah, when I saw that as a kid, I was like, oh, I sort of know this thing, this Beanie and Cecil thing, and it's a cartoon on TV, so I'm going to watch it for sure. But it never tickled me the same way. I didn't know how in your face that it was a Bob Clampett cartoon, Old Beanie and Cecil, which that's smart on his part. He was seeing, Hanna-Barbera were like getting their names out there. You gotta
And Chuck
gotta
Jones taking credit for everything. Sorry.
Oh God, yeah, you're right. Yeah, totally. Clampett is seeing Chuck Jones just be the one, the final survivor there. Meanwhile, as Tex Avery just kind of goes into obscurity until the kooky fans get to control the animation world. But yeah, the opening's great of just him bounding and bumping around. I also love the shot of Freakazoid sleeping in a cluttered room, which has to be the bachelor pad of many of the writers on the show.
The villains we see, I think, are the Booger is the big green guy.
Oh, yeah.
And Cobra Queen, and then the Lobe we see. And then there's just some random things like a purple dinosaur that's not Barney.
Yeah, he just throws crap around. Yeah, he fights like a big monster in it. And it's also unlike in the original where Cecil just licks Bob Clampett, but also Freak licks Spielberg, but first the camera, and then he licks Steph, and Steph is like, oh, Freak. Like, that's a joke there that she is just receptive to it. She's not like, ew.
She's into it. Yeah. I guess she's dating Freakazoid and Dexter.
I guess, kinda. And yeah, so then we get the Emmy-winning opening, the greatest.
Yes,
yeah.
I could watch it over and over and over again. And it's like whenever these WB shows come up in our rotation, I can't decide, do I like Tiny Toons the most, do I like Animaniacs the most, or do I like Freakazoid the most in terms of their openings? And then it's like whatever the most recent one I saw, I was like, that's the best opening.
The best animated one probably is the Tiny Toons one, I think. But the catchiest song might be Freakazoid.
It has the fastest tempo. It's just such a fast and jazzy song. The other ones are a little slower and bouncier.
I guess that, is that the one-upsmanship of each opening. It's like the Tiny Toon ones goes like da-da-da-da-da, and then Animaniacs has to go faster than that, and then Freakazoid has to go faster than that. And so then we come into the start of Dexter's Date. We get even a title card.
Title card that's really misleading because it's a weird claw reaching in over two people in a car.
You're right.
Presumably Dexter and Steph, and they're rarely in the car in this episode, and there's more than two people in that car when we see it.
Wow, you're right. It didn't even hit me what a total lie of the title card was. But that is also part of the parody that is the show. And yeah, it's co-credited to Alan Burnett. Sounds like Rugg rewrote it quite heavily, specifically the Bonjour Lobby song. He also said in a behind-the-scenes thing that this was kind of a holdover from season 1. Like, it's a season 1 script. They then reworked into the first one from season 2. And part of it was that it was a holdover in giving extra time to the storyboarders to get the dance sequence just right. The director is Jack Heiter, who was just coming off of Bobby's World. And looking at his resume after this, it looks like he moved overseas to work out of a Korean studio because his main credits are supervising director or overseas supervising director on a lot of Klasky Csupo shows.
Okay.
And his most recent IMDb credit is As Told by Ginger in 2009.
So maybe out of the industry now.
He must be quietly retired. Like, he's not on LinkedIn either. So I'm not sure what happened to the guy, but that's the director. He directed a lot of episodes,
including Nerditor, right?
Yes, actually, yeah, we already talked about him. That's right. Yeah, but thanks to your awesome question of Paul Rugg about this, he credits the dance sequence more to Rich Ahrens.
God, there is so much specificity in the movements. It's not just rotoscoping the footage either, and they do their own little dances too. You just need so many storyboard panels, so many like animation drawings to send overseas to get that right, and it's so perfect.
It probably took the effort of a full episode just for that sequence. Maybe that's why they lost 2 episodes this season, because this spent all the money.
They should have submitted this for an Emmy.
Yeah, I mean, I am surprised they went with Hero Boy instead of this one. I guess, Hero Boy does have their biggest guest star of the season with Ricardo Montalban.
It's true. This one has better animation, though.
That's another one that stuck in my head forever. Just like, I must succeed. I must succeed. Yeah. And yes, this is kind of the last time Dexter's dual identity matters in the show. Like, there's a good joke in 2 episodes in Mission Freakout, which is Cosgrove invites along Steph on a trip to save, basically like Slobodan Milosevic kidnaps Dexter's family.
Oh, yeah.
And Cosgrove calls along Steph and his new butler, played by Jonathan Harris. And he's like, hey, that's your family, right? Because you're Dexter Douglas. And Freakazoid's like, Cosgrove? That's my secret identity. And Steph's like, wait, you're the nerd Dexter Douglas? And everybody just goes like, yeah, oh, I see you, Dexter Douglas. I'll remember that.
Well, I mean, Dexter isn't funny. The funniness in Dexter comes from the realistic nerd sadness he exhibits, and people abusing him.
and for the nerds watching this show, we get enough of that in real life. I don't.
Oh, that's so very sad.
I don't need to see a guy wearing exactly what I wore then, of cargo shorts and 2 big T-shirts to hide my waistline.
I do really like his parents, though, and I'm glad they show up here. Just classic 60s parents. The mom just vacantly chipper, and the dad just like an old-fashioned dad. Mind your apples.
I love, in a future one, they celebrate that their oldest son will never leave home and just be a stunted man-child. And he goes like, great, more time to work out. Actually, there's another great joke later in the season when they show his parents getting kidnapped, and Freakazoid said, that's right, my family's a bunch of loons. But yeah, this one, though, just like the Nerditor episode, begins with a nerd asking a cute girl on a date. How sad can you get?
Our story begins like many others here at Harry Connick Jr. High School, where Dexter Douglas is about to ask the most important question of his life.
Would you like to, kind of go out with me, like, on a date?
Gee, Dex, have you ever been on a date before?
No, but I've been practicing. Oh, Stephanie, that is so funny. Teeny weeny?
Well, I guess I could go.
Oh, great. When?
When?
6
I
months
can't
later.
believe you remembered.
I put it in my computer.
Great.
Don't get in. Quit it.
Oh, am I ruining your little date?
Dad.
Duncan, mind your apples, huh?
Oh, I never get to have any fun.
The reveal of the entire family in the car with them is very funny.
That's so great. As he's moving from being punched the whole time.
And he was smooching a kind of mannequin with Steph's picture on it.
Yeah, very creepy.
Yeah.
A very creepy joke. Also, hearing it alone in audio, I think they really got away with something there, that he offered her a teeny weenie.
It's a real 60s groovy hangout he's got there, because he's got a lava lamp and cocktail weenies, and he's got some weird, I don't know what even music is on the record player.
Yeah, I guess it's supposed to be Herb Alpert.
Okay, yeah.
I'd bet that. Though maybe that's just me remembering Angry Beavers, because that had a million Herb Alpert. But, I mean, come on, he's offering her a teeny weenie.
Yeah.
Like, that is, in just audio form, this is part of his sexual, like, he kisses that doll and then it fades away. Like, what else did Dexter do that night with this doll with her face on it?
Teaching those kids, nerdy kids out there, you got to cash those rain checks, those pity dates.
Tracy Rowe is the actress for her, and she basically is Steph. It's kind of her biggest role. Like, she's not in much else after this. Very slim IMDb, but I just love her, like, way of going. You can tell she plays it so well. They're all directed by Andrea Romano, too. Like, so great direction. But, like, in her voice, you can hear her go, like, I absolutely do not want to go on this date, but I don't want to hurt this poor little boy's feelings.
The power of computers, as you can eventually remember these mystical dates you're promised.
I love, how she goes like, great. Like she was sure. She said it's in 6 months from now. No way he'll remember her.
This is a pretty ritzy place he's taking her to, though.
Yeah, the parents are paying a lot for. I would assume mom and dad are paying for this trip, but. And yeah, the dad going like, mind your apples, son. What a funny, weird saying. But yes, they then pan over to the NCB studios, which I looked up pictures of it. I think that actually is the Burbank studios of NBC that they just drew. Then I looked on Google Maps, is literally within walking distance of Warner's Burbank studios. So
they just looked out the window.
Very specific reference there. I guess because we've stayed literally across the street from it, maybe that's why I recognized it too. But yes, this is where the Loeb's plan begins, with a little Seinfeld reference in between.
Don't touch that dial. For the next 60 minutes, I'm in control.
Come on, Kramer, give me the donut. Never.
The key to the whole show is Newman.
Got it plugged in, boss, just like you said.
Very good, Medulla. Now, With just a flick of the switch, my video sapper will steal every movie, every program, every broadcast ever produced. Not only will I be able to flood the market with counterfeit cassettes, thus crippling the entertainment industry, but I'll never have to program my VCR again.
The Loeb is inventing torrenting,
You're
basically,
right.
in this scene.
You're right. And that did briefly cripple the entertainment industry. Now they figured it out a whole nother way.
Very good medulla. He has these two heavies for no reason. These two like 30s gangster heavies that are identical, medulla and oblongata,
who just stand around most of the time.
Yeah.
If somebody needs to lift a thing, maybe they do. But yeah, they weren't in his first season appearances. They are in another season 2 episode. What I love about their designs is that I think Rich Aaron's supervising director or someone else were just like, let's just do a drawing of one of the heavies from an episode of Batman that Batman would have just beat up, because they look straight out of it.
You're totally right about that. But I like how they're supportive of their boss. And what I get from watching this 25 years later is I get a lot of the Monarch from the Loeb.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of Venture Brothers-y stuff happening. I mean, because the Tick was happening at the time, there's lots of Venture Brothers stuff in that. I feel a lot of the Monarch in this character right now.
They're all riding a similar wave of like reacting to the, Batman 66 and all of the 70s cartoon reruns that Gen Xers and late baby boomers grew up on. So it's this general reaction to it. Yeah. Definitely, you're right. I see a ton of Monarch in the Loeb. Though Monarch also, if he had just appeared whole cloth in an episode of Tick, everybody had been like, yeah, that's a Tick villain. Like, that's what's fun about the Monarch, that he is of that same ilk. I also think, based on this and The Critic and King of the Hill, I'm getting the idea that for a lot of mid-90s comedy writers, that they felt Seinfeld was overrated.
I think so, yeah. Just like, they think they're so funny.
Stupid Seinfeld. Every joke, the way they show in this is the same how The Critic did it, of like, well, how do you express Seinfeld in like 2 seconds of animation? Kramer bursts into the room.
And that's the joke everyone laughs at.
Yeah, it's like, isn't that funny? Oh, a man walks into a room, best comedy on TV. I'm a better comedy writer than that.
Something that really tickled me and put me in a good mood upon watching this episode is that I like that the Loeb knows how to enjoy things. He's tickled by Seinfeld. He likes Newman. He really has figured out the dynamic of Seinfeld. And then we see him later. He enjoys being at the restaurant. He's so excited for dinner. He really wants to, be chased by Freakazoid. He enjoys that even. Like he's into the things he's into, and I like that about the Loeb.
That is not, David Warner plays a lot more characters like that, are just like, I'm so above everything. Like, I'm better than all this. But instead, he's like, no, I like what I like. I enjoy things. I'll happily watch Seinfeld while my henchmen are setting something up.
And a classic VCR programming joke.
Because
yes. For some people, they were hard. I had mastered programming the VCR by age 9 because I wanted to record everything, even when I wasn't there.
I never did. If I didn't do it in person, I didn't trust it. Maybe on a rare occasion when I had to be somewhere, which is I was a Dexter Douglas, so rarely was I needed somewhere. I was home. When Space Ghost was airing at night, I was there Friday night.
You were TV adjacent.
Also, the jokes about Newman remind me that Spielberg cast Wayne Knight in Jurassic Park. And looking at a timeline of Wayne Knight's career, I believe Jurassic Park came out after he'd first appeared on Seinfeld as Newman. But Wayne Knight was cast in Jurassic Park before that, because Spielberg really liked him in Basic Instinct.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's, if you see the one scene everyone remembers from Basic Instinct, it's not just that, oh, wow, a flash of someone's genitals, but it is also seeing Wayne Knight's reaction in the very next shot.
He was Mr. Sweaty Guy. He sweats like a pig. Oh, my.
So there is a Spielberg connection to complimenting Wayne Knight through this episode. Making it a VHS-related crime, too, also makes it very 1996.
We're 1 year before the birth of DVD.
Wow.
97.
That soon, man. On the recent podcast, The Ride, which we both listened to, they talked about 2000 core as a style.
Yeah.
When you said DVD, I'm like, oh, that means 2000 core is almost here.
Going to Best Buy every Tuesday, spending $100.
Everybody's wearing like bright, almost rayon kind of clothing. it then cuts back to the family. They arrive at Washington Gardens. In Hello Dolly, it's the Harmonia Gardens restaurant.
They say the name of the restaurant enough that I figured it was a reference.
It might be even like a triple reference of like not just Harmonia Gardens, but maybe I wouldn't be surprised that Washington Gardens is like a restaurant in Burbank that they went to. Like they literally name check more than one place they buy lunch.
Baronis.
Baronis, yep. I hope that at least got them some free Baronis.
I think they had like episode rap parties there too.
I bet you.
They kept Baronis in business.
And yes, Emmett Nervend, we get to see him in a quick pan over, and we get to see the 1996 version of Barbra Streisand come out, so she's even there too.
Now that I know what this is referencing, we see Barbra Streisand twice. We see her as she actually is, and then Freakazoid turns into a version of her that's earlier in the movie Hello Dolly.
Yeah,
in that red
that's
getup.
right.
Yeah. I didn't watch all 2.5 hours of that movie, but I did skim through it, and then I did watch the entire sequence. But yeah, she is in that outfit. Earlier in the movie, that red outfit.
I skimmed through it on Disney Plus because it's so convenient, and I also got to hear the song that was in WALL-E. Like that's Hello Dolly got back in the public knowledge because WALL-E watches a non-Streisand scene from that film of "Out there's a world outside of Yonkers." That song. But yes, the kids get dropped off for their date.
Don't forget your allergy to sheet cakes, hon.
Yes, Mother.
Have a good time now.
You're allergic to sheet cakes?
Just the pan.
Have a good time now.
Tress's delivery is so great. I know. I get why he did it twice. Like,
and they keep cutting back to that. So I guess they're still waiting outside.
I mean, I could also see her as this overprotective and downright passive-aggressive in some scenes mother, that she would stick around all night to probably comfort her poor little baby when I am sure she expects Steph to break his heart. So yes, they arrive inside, and a French guy says hello to them.
Yes, give Rob Paulson a chance. He will play a French waiter.
And he'll add at least 20% homosexuality to it.
Make it a little gay.
But before I play, what I love about this guy is that it is so the stereotypical joke of the rude French waiter, but this is the incredibly supportive to the point of being annoying French waiter.
All the French waiters are helping Dexter all throughout this night.
Yeah, I think they're all like these gay wingmen to their straight relationship.
Welcome to the Washington Gardens. You have a reservation?
Douglas. Dexter Douglas.
Oh, who put all this in Latin? Yes, your mommy makes a reservation. She says you're having a big fancy first date.
Have a good time now.
And this must be the lucky lady, princess girl. Don't worry, my dear. We make this the most romantic night of your life.
No, don't.
Unfortunately, your table won't be ready for a few minutes. Why don't you two lovely pigeons wait here in the lounge? There. Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, they play that one a few times too, don't
yes.
they? Oh, that's so nice.
They're having so much fun with all these reused clips, but you're totally right. It's a too nice French waiter, and I do like this string quartet version of the Freakazoid theme playing in the background.
It's so great. Yeah, until isolating the music, I didn't really catch it. Like Richard Stone, on the DVD, they have the demo version of the song too, and you can hear he really put in a lot of work. And I also love his line of saying, like, who wrote this in Latin? It's because on screen, the overseas animation just put random letters all over the place on the list.
I was wondering, like, that's a weird joke, but you're right. It probably came back with a bunch of gibberish because they didn't tell them what to put on the page. So just a bunch of, like, X's and ones and squares and things.
That's what happened. If you aren't direct and say, write this on there, then you're asking the overseas people to just wing it. And, you know, I bet if you asked Rich Aarons, like, hey, write a Japanese sign, like, you just get back gibberish as well, or write something in Korean, you wouldn't have a good time.
But there is a note that says Dexter's date on there, so at least that was sent over to replicate.
I love that he's like, your mommy made the reservation, and also how Steph is just so resistant, like, please don't make this the most romantic life of my life. I'd love that. And also that the guy even places them in like a literal love seat, like not just in size, but that it's a heart backrest on it too. But as they're getting seated, they then learn that at NCB, the Lobe has taken it over and that They learn it from a cameraman who just operates it with his tibia.
I'm operating the minicam with my tibia.
That's them getting away with like a word that sounds dirty, but they can just say like, no, it's a medical term for the leg.
Your epidermis is showing.
And then also the design of the guy calling in for help, like he's straight out of Superman. He looks like a random Superman extra. And so yes, Dexter runs off. Says he has to use the bathroom. He has to potty, I think, even. And so then Freakazoid comes out. I feel like there should be applause because, like, hey, Freakazoid's here.
It's been 3 minutes.
And the way just goes like, time to wash my hands. Freakazoid quickly heads over to NCB.
All that's left is to steal the last season of Bonanza, the ones featuring David Canary as Candy.
Hello? Loeb? Is this the right room?
Freakazoid, look what you've done.
Sorry, I'm in a hurry.
There's a door not 10 feet away, a fine invention. You should try it.
Okay, I'm pulling the plug on your little fiendish scheme.
But aren't we going to fight? You know, have a struggle of some sort?
I don't have time. I gotta get back. I'm on a date.
But that's not fair. I went through all the trouble of planning this amazing, brilliant crime. The least you could do is chase me around.
Next time, I promise. We'll make a night of it. We'll have a really big fight.
Oh, next time. Pooh.
Oh, boy. So I feel like this is when the episode starts getting gay in a delightful way where the Loeb is just doing this to get Freakazoid's attention. He just wants to have a chase and a fight with this other man.
Yeah, that he thinks like, oh, boy, Freakazoid showed up for our normal date. And then Freakazoid just cuts it short. He's like, but I made a whole cake and everything. Come on. Like,
when he lets the Loeb down, you hear that mournful violin in the background.
Oh, yeah. And then Freakazoid totally is the workaholic husband going like, I'm real busy. Like, but next time, for sure, big fight, we'll make a night of it. And just, and the way he goes, oh, next time, poo. It's like he's been told next time a lot of times before. God, Warner plays it just so camp and great. I love that. And just he's like, weren't we going to fight around a while? Come on. Also, again, another joke that flew right past me in a pre-Google age. David Canary did play the character Candy in late seasons of Bonanza.
I looked it up. They added him to spice up Bonanza. Get some young blood on that show.
I mean, most of them were probably on their way to like stage 4 cancer from the smoking.
I feel like all the Westerns went off the air when all the World War II vets died. That was programming made just for them.
You're right. Yeah, there's, Bonanza is for nobody now. Unless you're Andy Daly, the very funny comedian. And yeah, so then Freakazoid zaps himself and he goes full Daffy, like even says like, woo, 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 as he bounces around the walls. Yeah, I think, something's kind of lost here because I do see the interesting starting point of like Freakazoid gets zapped by TV waves and turns into people who are on television.
Yeah, I forgot that premise has really little to do with the rest of the episode because he transforms into like 3 things, maybe like 5 or 6, but they're just like one-off jokes. Like, can you believe he transformed into this? And then it only really plays into the song when he transforms into Louis Armstrong.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just like the quick visual gag of seeing it. And then it's like, in most cases, he doesn't even do, other than Satchmo, he doesn't really do an imitation of that person. He just goes like, I look like this person.
It's more like the novelty of seeing a caricature with a bit of like Freakazoid added to them. They always have like a little lightning bolt somewhere on them to show you that it's him, and they're also blue.
Yeah, that's the most fun in the character design is where they can fit in the lightning bolt. Oh, but first, just to waste a little more time, good old Cosgrove shows up, which is good because I don't think we got much Cosgrove in our first time we did this.
No, I don't think so because, again, they're kind of being forced to tell more traditional stories, and usually Cosgrove would just show up to interrupt a story.
Yeah.
And here, he's here to arrest the Loeb, presumably, right?
Yeah, apparently the story is that in season 1, in the first episode, or one of their earliest scripts, McCann wrote Cosgrove to show up and is like, well, he's the cop of this episode, and he won't come back, but Rugg loved the character so much as both a time waster and this old-timey 1950s cop that they just put him in as much as they could afterwards. And Cosgrove's, I think, in almost every episode of season 2, I think.
One episode is about him and his new girlfriend.
That's right.
In this season.
Oh, man.
Who's a demon.
That's right. And Freakazoid, goes to a 50s style diner to drink his troubles away in that. But yes, Cosgrove is here.
Sky, look, Zappa. Hello,
Hey, Freakazoid.
Oh, hi, Cosgrove. The Lobe's inside, all packed up and ready to go.
Once we're done here, you want to get a fat-free yogurt?
I can't. I gotta get back to my date. Next time.
How about you kids? Want to get a yogurt? All right, maybe later.
You really wants to get a yogurt.
Even asking the kids at home watching it. I loved when they challenge themselves to be like, all right, what are the obscure things we can have Cosgrove want to do? Sometimes it's go to Spumoni Land. Sometimes it's watch a bear ride a motorcycle.
Go out for a mint.
Yeah, just a single mint. And he wants to waste time. This is I love Cosgrove just turns to camera and goes like, hey, you kids want to do it?
So much of the show is about creatively wasting time. So we get Cosgrove showing up. We get Freakazoid just running in place for, I don't know, 15 seconds before he kind of takes off. He doesn't fly. If you haven't watched the show, he just kind of runs around making whoosh noises.
Yeah, he can run around like a child pretends to fly, putting your hands up. But if for plot purposes he needs to move really fast, then he turns into a lightning bolt and just zaps where he needs to go, thus making it even sillier that he wastes so much time pretending to fly. And I feel like that shot is cycled twice, like that it was a certain amount of length and they're like, nah, keep it going.
It's a great piece of animation of just how his crazy his limbs are going when he's like running in place.
Yeah, and in that Teen Titans Go episode, you better believe they do that joke too. And I just love hearing Paul Rugg make those Freakazoid sounds again, even 25 years later, still funny. And yeah, so Cosgrove, after he talks to the kids, the Lobe escapes right after they thought they caught him. And this is again where Lobe is pouting.
What a thoroughly unsatisfying evening this has turned out to be.
Where to now, boss? Back to the hideout?
The hideout? Oh, that's all we ever do. Back to the hideout. I'm sick of the hideout. Why don't we do anything fun anymore?
You want to go by the video store and see if they got garden tests?
No, you're not listening. I want to go out. I want to have some fun. I want to sing. I want to dance.
Dance?
I know. The Washington Gardens. We haven't been there in ages.
Whoa, the Washington Gardens? Oh, but boss, that joint is crawling with people. You're a wanted criminal.
I don't care. Call Francois. Tell him Lobe's coming back.
There's some really great poses of him in the back of the car.
Oh, God. Well, I like it. The one at the end where he says Lobe's coming back, he poses like a sexy dame of the 40s. But yeah, he's like stomping his foot like, no, you're not listening.
That's all we ever do is go back to the hideout.
The hideout. And also just the way they offered up they're more his parents who just like, you want to rent a video? And what a great specific to get there. The already in 1996 forgotten 1994 film Guarding Tess.
I had no idea what they were saying. I was like, Garden Pests? It was Guarding Tess. Okay.
Yeah, that one I knew because I on a family trip, I remember putting it on TV and just like, oh, it's a film about Nicolas Cage as a Secret Service agent for Shirley MacLaine, a former First Lady. And
that's a perfect bad obscure movie to make fun of.
Especially because like the reason you don't see it in clip packages of Nicolas Cage acting crazy is because he pretty much has to be the straight man in it to Shirley MacLaine being the cantankerous old lady. Like basically it's Driving Miss Daisy except with the Secret Service and a First Lady. Hey, maybe it's good.
No, it's not.
I'm sure it's
it's not.
Yeah. I also love that the thugs are like, wait, you dance now? Like, this is Loeb going like, yes, I'm a character who sings and dances now.
They say dance.
So that's a commercial break, already teasing that they're going to have a musical number in the next scene.
It's really funny because they're forced to tell these 22-minute stories, but every act is a different cartoon.
Yeah.
It feels like. Now it's just like, well, now what? Now the Loeb is going to have fun, kids.
Aren't you guys excited to see the Loeb having fun? And we come back. Poor Steph is stuck alone eating breadsticks at her table while her date is still in the toilet.
So much bread at dinner. That's a thing of the past now that we're carb crazy.
Yeah, well, and especially like, no way would Steph be able to keep that girlish figure if she eats all that bread. No. So this is when Freakazoid gets back. He tries to change back into Dexter as he always does with freak in, and he says freak out. Oh, freak out. That's what he says to change, but it's like his flame on thing. But then he changes into Oprah instead, and he just says, I look like Oprah. And I personally don't think it's too bad here, but I definitely think a modern cartoon would not have Freakazoid turn into so many black people.
That's true. That's true. Although I do really like his Louis Armstrong impression.
It's really fun. I don't know if it's okay now, but it is very funny.
It's Freakazoid has no race. He's a blue man.
He's a blue man. Well, I mean, he is a white boy inside.
It's true.
Yeah, but yes, first he turns into Oprah.
I'm surprised it's like a thin Oprah. They didn't do an Oprah fat joke. Even The Simpsons and The Critic did Oprah fat jokes.
Tiny Toons and Animaniacs made much meaner jokes about Oprah, and here it's like, no, it's just regular thin Oprah. And also then he turns into Letterman. But you think there was an Uma Oprah joke in there?
Oh,
like, you already have Oprah and Letterman. Like, you go to Uma Thurman.
We had to be close enough to that to reference it, but it's weird. There was not we had Oprah, David Letterman, but no Uma.
Yeah. It's missed. Maybe they cut it because they're like, everybody's doing an Uma Oprah mockery. Like, forget it.
I like that Oscar show with Letterman because he didn't go for any of that crap.
Yeah.
He wanted to alienate you and it worked.
He is not worshipful of celebrities. Like, friend of the show, Will Sloan, very funny critic. He talked about how, like, you know, there's an old clip of Letterman interviewing Lindsay Lohan that was resurfacing recently where he is not being particularly nice to a woman dealing with multiple substance abuse issues. And our friend Will Sloan said, like, I'm paraphrasing, but he had a great joke of saying, yeah, that was pretty rough, but don't worry. Now David Letterman is very boring and properly respectful to all of the celebrities who were so rich.
He talks to Obama.
I know. It's like he overadjusts, like, just retire, Letterman. Come on.
Yeah, it was fun when he was a heartless crank.
I mean, even his 90s stuff is just like, your heart's not in as much. I will say, I started rewatching a bunch of some very nice person on YouTube is uploading like every single thing that from Letterman ever. All the sketches, not the interviews. And
oh yeah, I spent a lot of time on E in the 90s watching old Letterman.
It took me back to that, and especially the Chris Elliott stuff, because well, who knows if we'll do something with Chris Elliott in the future. But
wink, wink.
But rewatching that Chris Elliott stuff, I totally see now like why the people 10 years younger than us, that generation of comedy nerds, when they saw Chris Elliott do the shit he did on there, it's like, oh my god, this is mind blowing that this is what comedy can be, and also from a similar world of comedy as Freakazoid, just to get it back to Freakazoid.
I assume that these guys love Letterman. There was no joke at his expense. It's just like, no, we're fans of him.
They definitely were on the side of Letterman and not Leno with that joke there. Yeah, and then the waiter comes into the room, sees him kissing a mirror. He's like, oh, you are practicing, but you must come with me. And then it's a very long, I get the joke, but it kind of, this is a long joke that's not funny like the length of Bonjour Lobby.
Yeah, it feels like it is a waste of time, but not intentionally. It's not that funny to see Freakazoid turn into Michael Jackson and Barney and things like that. I mean, there are no jokes. It's just like, look, now he's a different thing. So I think they realize this premise won't make anything really that funny. So they really get the most out of it here.
It feels like the leftover bones of the Alan Burnett script, that they're like, well, the joke is he keeps turning into people, and like even turning into Gen X icon Alan Hale, who'd been dead for 6 years at the time of this. It's funny how they call him Alan Hale and not the Skipper. Maybe that protects them legally.
Oh, you're right. No, it's Alan Hale dressed as a skipper. I prefer to think of him as the giant spider invasion, Alan Hale.
Of course, yeah. Oh, God. One of my all-time favorite riffs is when he hangs up and he says, little buddy, and they're like, get it? And so, yes, then he runs away. The waiter grabs him back. It is a very long, like, it's farce. It's a very long comical farce. And then the waiter brings him back, and then he's turned into Judge Ito. Again, very dated reference.
It's the one kind of joke they get out of this transformation where the waiter goes, Your Honor, I am so sorry. And he goes, me too. It's as if he's saying, I'm sorry that I found O.J. Simpson not guilty.
That's good.
He's apologizing for Judge Ito.
I like how the waiter is so respectful to this judge. He's like, you know what? This is a judge. And also that Steph is just kind of an accessory to it. Like, well, that's not my date. That's Skipper. I did not go on a date with this dead 70-year-old man. Then, once they're all done with that, it's time to set up for the arrival of the Lobe.
Attention, waiters!
I have the most wonderful of news. This very evening, after an absence of many years, we will once again play host to our favorite guest.
You mean?
Oui, the Lobe. He's here. All right. You all know what to do. Go greet our guest.
Freak in. Aw, freak out. Meanwhile, as poor Freakazoid strained, grunted, and groaned in his feeble attempt to change back into mild-mannered Dexter Douglas, the Lobe, that super-smart, sinister villain with the pink fleshy head, arrived at the Washington Gardens and was about to do the unthinkable.
So before your Hello Dolly reference, you get a Paul Harvey reference.
Good old Paul
Smack
Harvey.
me with a handle. Yeah, again, whenever they do the Paul Harvey thing, they animated it once, and the lip sync never matches after that. But he just loves doing the Paul Harvey voice so much, and it's funny as hell.
And again, I bet they're like, we're still a minute short here.
Yeah.
Well, can we can get 20 seconds out of the old Paul Harvey footage from season 1.
It's so funny that the waiters are so excited to see the Lobe, because in the movie Hello Dolly, I didn't watch the 2 hours before this song, but it's like, yes, this glamorous woman we're all in love with is coming to see us. We're so excited. She's so amazing. But here it's this giant brain man, this insane brain man with like shark teeth.
In the song, Dolly is a recently widowed woman who used to be, you know, the fun matchmaker of all of these people, and now she's back. And so everybody's like, isn't it great that Dolly's back? That's the setup of it. In this case, it's like, we haven't had the Lobe eat at our French restaurant in a very long time, and now we're so excited. Also, it almost feels like a commentary by Rugg of having Freakazoid be so bored. He's just like, freaking.
And that's when he changes into another Barbra Streisand.
Yes. Yeah.
From the movie.
And it's just so silly, but also that he doesn't care. Like, that's the writers going like, I'm bored. Like, this constantly changing thing, not fun.
Something that surprised me maybe in my 20s was, so in the 90s, I was not in my 20s, by the way, but in the 90s, the jokes about Streisand were, isn't she an ugly bitch?
Yes.
And then going back to her old movies, she's beautiful.
Yes,
and that surprised me because look at South Park and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand where all those shows are coming from because, well, she is both a very prideful and full of herself woman who some would call controlling, but also I think that a lot of that comes from her wanting to actually control her career and how actually have power in Hollywood instead of being used by it. I think it's a mix of those things. Look, is she gold poisoned like a dragon who lives on top of a pile of money? Sure, yeah. She like literally has a mall under her house. I think I've talked about this before.
I respect her for not getting a nose job. I have a Streisand style nose myself, and I take pride in it. And also in the Broadway version, it was Carol Channing.
Okay, let's talk about that casting. That I have seen that Broadway heads actually definitely did not like the 1969 film because, one, Carol Channing originated the role of Dolly and is amazing at it. Like,
she feels like a lot more brassier of an actress too than the more gentle Streisand.
Well, and also she's 20 years older than Streisand.
That's a big deal too. Yeah.
The character of Hello Dolly is supposed to be a middle-aged woman returning to her roots, or like, I'm back. Like, that's what the whole song is about. And meanwhile, Barbra Streisand was 27 when she played that role, especially when she's supposed to be dating, or her love interest in the film is Walter Matthau.
Disgusting. I think I've talked about this before, but it's insane that Walter Matthau was a romantic lead in all these movies. He was a hideous man, but he played that, for comedy most of the time.
Yes, and hey, it worked out. He got to kiss a lot of pretty ladies.
I know.
And so, yes, well, Barbra Streisand, I think, is really great in the role. She does a great job with the songs, but physically, she is not the correct casting for it. But she was more famous than Carol Channing. And for, this overly long roadshow film that came out the same year, I think the same week as Easy Rider. It's it was so lost in the past, like this musty old thing. It was a giant it was a flop. Not as massive a flop as some others, like Dr. Dolittle, I think is a bigger flop. But
it kind of just made back its budget. And the thing was, I was reading up on it, that they made the movie, but there was a stipulation that they couldn't actually screen the movie until the show closed. The show wouldn't close until 71, so they had to pay the theater company $1 million or something like that, an undisclosed amount, to just show the movie. And I believe it was Gene Kelly's last movie. And the critics didn't like it because they were like, you had this huge screen, and all you do is just fill it with people. There's no artistry behind it. You're just like, oh, I'll just fill this widescreen with people, and there you go, your widescreen movie.
Yeah, I will say, if you've seen cropped versions of it on YouTube, or when I was a kid watching it on an SD TV, you are missing the main attraction of the film.
Yeah, it's like 2.35 to 1, or very, very widescreen.
It's so widescreen, and they fill it with people. Like, there's the final shot of the film is outside of a church for a wedding, and it's a close-up on Streisand and Mathau, and then it pulls out and pulls out and pulls out and pulls out and pulls out until you see, like, they have, like, literally, like, 200 people in period costume, and it's just like, you're supposed to go, what how expensive was this?
It was all about the spectacle. I mean, it was a $25 million movie in 1969, and that was a lot of money back then.
And the shots, I mean, there's so many. This gave me so much more appreciation watching it in the 4K-ish, probably more like 2K, but a high-definition version on Disney+. There's some shots in there that they copy really well in this. It's like a tracking shot where she's moving back and forth through the frame, but she's kept in the center. And I just think of, like, the planning and the pressure that had to be on Streisand for those shots to work. Like, that is a special effects shot on par with anything you see in, like, a Star Wars or a Marvel movie.
This is a 4x3 show with a TV animation budget higher than most other shows, so they try very hard to get it right. For the most part, they do. Some of the cheats that they do, just for the sake of getting this done on a TV budget, is, as opposed to Hello Dolly, the shots are much tighter on the Loeb, so instead of having, like, 6 waiters at one side and 6 at the other dancing with him, it's just, like, 1 on each side. And then when they want to pull out, they can just say, oh, the other waiters were always there.
Yeah. It's close up on 2 waiters instead of literally dozens dancing all around her.
But that shot of him in the beginning walking down the stairs and, like, just gently looking at the waiter is an amazing piece of animation for TV. It's incredibly smooth. It conveys everything it's supposed to. It's shockingly good.
It's Loeb soaking it all up. He's so sassy. I mean, this is more of Loeb being like the sassy gay man who's just like, I'm coming out, everybody. And I mean, honestly, to do this more directly, like, he should be in a dress. Like, this is a drag performance by the Loeb.
I wonder if they wanted to put him in a dress.
And also, you think of the character of the Loeb, his crazy, wacky drawing. His head is not meant to do all of these motions for a dance sequence.
I was just thinking that when I was watching this, in that the Loeb is an odd design. It doesn't feel like it was a Bruce Timm design. It felt like it came along later. Maybe he did design the Loeb, but when Freakazoid is spinning him around in the chair, I was just thinking he was never meant to turn around like this.
Yeah, he's just a little beak underneath a giant wad of bubble gum. Like, so for him to have to do all of these, like, motions with his head, the spin around with it, when he has to, like, go in a circle, like, his head isn't supposed to do that. And I looked at Paul Rugg. He loves this. I think it is what he thinks is his favorite thing, or one of his favorite things. In a January 2021 Instagram post, he shared something he found while moving, which was the recording day script of that song, and that he had David Warner sign it. And he said it's his favorite collectible from his time on Freakazoid.
David Warner is he's trying very hard. I think some of the humor comes from just how poorly the Loeb is singing, which I think that's why he doesn't do a lot of the singing. This song is not in his register at all. It's kind of unfair to him to make him sing this, but it's great.
Yeah, it's you're right. A lot of talk singing, and it is 4 minutes and 22 seconds long.
God, it's incredible.
Though I will say the film version is closer to 7 minutes, so they actually could have indulged more if they want. It's unbelievable they got away with this too. But here, I'm gonna play it for you guys, listeners. Give it a listen.
bonjour. Lobie, oui, bonjour. Lobie, we're so pleased that you've come back. We have to scream. Ah! We see your veins, Lobie, and your brains. Lobie, undulating, calculating, formulating schemes. Let's throw a big party for our big smarty. We're just pleased as punch to see your big fat head. Oh.
Wow, 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 waiters. Lobie wants a bowl of chow, waiters. Don't forget a big old plate of bread. As a criminal, I shouldn't show my face, so years in seclusion I've spent. But now I realize it's okay to show my face. If anyone squeals, I'll entomb them in cement.
Excellent. Bonjour, bonjour, Lobie, oh bonjour, gosh, bonjour, Lobie.
Lobie's back and feeling higher than a kite. Oh, give me food, waiters, baked, fried, broiled, or stewed, waiters. Lobie's got a hearty appetite.
Lobie, how you doing?
Just fine.
Lobie, I'm so pleased that you've come back. I have to scream.
Well, go ahead.
I see your face.
They're all mine.
Lobie, and your brain.
Are they something?
Lobie, undulating, calculating, formulating schemes. Let's throw a big party for this big smarty. I'm just pleased as punch to see your big fat head.
See how big it is?
Oh,
it's a big fat head.
Give him food, waiters, baked, fried, boiled, or stewed. Yeah, and don't forget a big old plate of bread.
Oh, hey, Lobie, oui, bonjour. Lobie, we're so pleased that you've come back. We have to scream. Ah! We see your veins, Lobie, and your brains. Lobie, undulating, calculating, formulating schemes. Just smell the food.
I smell it!
Bacon and the sauce.
I see it!
Shaking Lobie's back and feeling higher than a kite. Oh,
give me food, waiters. Baked, fried, broiled, or stewed, waiters.
Lobie's got a hearty app. Lobie's got a hearty app. Lobie's got a hearty appetite.
Oh, they're so nice.
Yeah, it's all on YouTube. The sequence is on YouTube. So just hearing it doesn't do justice to all the amazing dancing and just the moments they capture from the movie. Like when Freakazoid is Louis Armstrong, like the little wave he does to the lobe, it's the exact same wave from the movie as he parts with the lobe.
Yeah, it's all, every shot is the perfect, even the way he turns, and every time they say to scream is great, but especially it comes during the song with him as Louis. In the song he says it's Louis Dolly, so it's like I keep calling him Louis even though Louis Armstrong is his stage name. But yeah, when he says I'd like to scream, go ahead. Like just hearing Ruggs scream in that voice that, you know, maybe it's a little iffy, but
I think he has a fun Cookie Monster voice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny because it's really clever because he turns the scream into him saying I. He goes, I.
Yes, yeah. God. And just all the motion capture on when it's a medium shot of Streisand in the musical, it's a medium shot of Loeb going, oh wow, 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 fellas. Like it's yeah, they're doing all of the Barbara-isms too. It's not just they took like this isn't just Hello Dolly, it is the 69 Gene Kelly directed film version of it with all of Streisand's very specific mannerisms that like she didn't want to copy Carol Channing's specifics that she did in that song. And when it's time for like the spotlight on her and to say it, like he even does that, like, I'll entomb them in cement. Oh God. And even going arm in arm with the guys, but the Armstrong appearance, that is the moment where I always go like, oh my God, it's still going. It's still, but how
they're adding new characters to the song.
But also that they actually take the time to do the thigh slapping dance.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if this is in the script, but it feels like they were getting insecure. Like they're just dancing around and there's no joke, so they have fake pledges coming in from people at the bottom of the screen added after the fact.
I like the PBS telethon joke, but I could also see that being, once it gets delivered, like some executive saying, you cannot have no dialogue for this long.
Yeah.
Fine, text on the screen. Okay.
During that little soft shoe routine. It's so well animated. Again, you have to watch it. And I love the final shot as they're pulling back. His arms are spread open and they're pulling back, showing all the waiters who are always there dancing off screen.
Also, like recording together with Warner and Rugg, the crosstalk between the two of them of just like the light scatting, wobbity-doo-doo. God, I love that. And also, it's like when he says, you know, big fat head, then he goes like, it's a big fat head. It's true. Take a look at it.
Again, I like how the Loeb is just excited to be here. He's in his moment. He can't wait to eat. He's talking about he wants a big plate of bread. He wants baked, boiled, or stewed food. He's greeting all the waiters. He's here and he's just having a blast, and it's his night. And his henchmen are so supportive. They're at the top of the stairs as he walks down. They're watching this entire scene, and they're happy he's having a good time.
Every shot of him is exactly the zoom in on the wee, like God, and hearing David Warner imitate Barbra Streisand going wee.
That wee, I think they reused that a few times too. Like when he trips Freakazoid later, and then when he's running to the cop car after he gets arrested, I think they use the wee.
Oh, you're right.
A few times because they're like David Warner saying wee is very funny.
Also, they show a woman when they say one of the scream lines. It's a shot of a woman from House on Haunted Hill, which had previously been used in Relaxovision. But I just love every shot of it, every time.
Before SpongeBob was doing it too, I always laugh at the shots of a live-action audience clapping during the cartoon.
Yeah, God.
And it saves money.
Every shot is just incredible. I'm so glad that, you know, credit to Rich Aarons and all the other artists on it that made this incredibly long, needless section that only cost them viewers. It didn't get them any viewers.
And this cartoon probably cost $1 million to make.
Oh, yeah, that's on the low end, I bet. And just that you can just imagine like all of the people tuning out, like every child changing the channel to whatever Fox had on.
They're still doing this? Yeah, I mean, when I was watching it as a kid, I didn't know what they were doing, but I kind of respected that it was going on for so long because it felt like they were getting away with something. And that's what I recommend to anybody who works for a corporation. Abuse your power while you have it because you won't have it for long.
Just imagine the like mid-level executive who got this delivered episode and see how long this is, and they're like, I got to take this up to Jamie Kellner, who is telling everybody, like, we want sexy teens having sexy times.
And this was the season premiere.
The season premiere. Like, I mean, I cannot think of a bigger FU to all the notes they were given than delivering a 4.5 minute long song sung by David Warner where Freakazoid virtually does not appear in it.
Yeah. And the third act, we'll talk all about it, of course. The third act feels like, all right, fine, we'll do the superhero stuff. It's just going to be generic, like swinging on chandeliers and running upstairs and stuff. It feels like that's our mandated superhero action portion.
It's so perfunctory. It's just forced on. And also we get another quick clip at the end of the waiter going, oh, that's so nice. And yeah, then it goes to commercial. How do you even come back for a third act after that?
Just run the credits.
But yes, they do. They do a joke of Freakazoid trying to like hide from Steph, which that feels like recognizing a certain level of stakes that Freakazoid never would do. Like Freakazoid would just go like, "Oh, hi, Steph. I mean, Freakazoid walking around." It definitely feels more leftover. But yes, Freakazoid needs help from Loeb, and Loeb has but one request.
Roast duck, press duck, dead duck. Psst. Freakazoid. Happen to catch my little number?
Look, you gotta help me. That video sapper thingy of yours shorted me out. I keep popping into different people. I can't change back into my alter ego. It's ruining my date.
Ah, yes. That would be a consequence. It's easily rectified, however.
It is? How?
Before I tell you, you have to do something for me.
What?
We have some unfinished business from earlier this evening. I want you to chase me.
You gotta be kidding me.
All right, never mind. Enjoy your date.
All right, a little chase. Then you help me.
Splendid. Should I start or do you want to?
You go ahead.
You'll never get me, Freakazoid!
Yes, I will!
That is one happy man.
He does like a little pirouette too at the top of the stairs. I love how he goes from being smug and withholding to being giddy.
When he makes Freakazoid fall, he's playing the character of like, I'm the villain who's happy I made him fall. But once that's over, he's like, oh, I'm so happy. Yay.
It's like in the beginning, it's like he's running into his ex at a restaurant or something. He's like, oh, what do you want? Did you see my little number?
Yeah. He's bragging like, pretty good number, huh?
It's like the entire I mean, think about being a patron at this restaurant, and we hear what Steph's reaction was. Like, I saw an entire song and dance number, and then there was a fight, and as they're fighting, everyone's applauding.
Yes, it's dinner theater is what it turns into. Which, I mean, in the Hello Dolly song, that is how it is presented in the film, too, of like, this is technically a restaurant that then it's treated as like diegetic in the film, as in Dolly shows up and it's not that she breaks into song and people treat it like it's normal. It's that Dolly appears and she's like, and I'm singing a song for everybody here and everyone applauds because they heard a great song.
I've got a lyric for all you waiters.
Yeah, each waiter she is going to flirt with. Yeah, but I just love all the happy noises Warner makes, just like, woo, hee, hee. And yes, we get the first of many. That is one happy man. And it's a fine chase and everything, but very perfunctory. Like,
there's really cool animation, though. One of my favorite pieces I watched a few times is when they're both like running across the tables towards the camera. It's like uncommonly good for such a basic scene like that.
That is a really good shot, yeah. And they run by Steph there, and he even says hi to her. And ending on the chandelier and it crashing through the wall. No, actually, they crash into another wall when they're riding on the serving carts together.
And a really cheap joke, but I love they just crash through a thin wall. The second they hit the wall, they cut to black and white footage of a nuclear bomb test going off.
Oh, yeah, that is very easy.
But it got a laugh out of me. And then when they cut back, the wall was very thin. It wasn't that big of a crash.
Yeah, I guess, this is like one of the last times you can even just do stock footage jokes in a cartoon. So I appreciate it in that way. But yes, once it's over, the Loeb is definitely satisfied with this climax of this battle here.
Is that enough?
Plenty, thank you. A tablespoon of salt in a glass of water will cure you.
Thanks.
That is one happy man.
Au revoir, Lobby. See you in 5 to 10.
Oh, what an evening! What a night! I feel lighter than air.
Good job, Freakazoid. Now, how about that yogurt?
No, thanks. I got a date.
Can I go?
Okay. See ya.
Okay.
Yelling "wee" as he runs to the cop car.
You're right. So many wees. And also just his like, oh yes, thank you. Like,
I want you to chase me.
There was another audio-only joke that I didn't get until this time too. Of like, when you hear Steph cheering in the foreground of that shot is a guy who was animated to do the put the fingers in your mouth and whistle thing, but in the sound it's him going like.
He's not doing it right.
It's him whiffing at. That's such a great, like, that definitely had to be an ADR edition.
I think so, because I think the fingers weren't drawn close enough together to make the whistle. They're like a little too far apart in his mouth, so I think they added it after the fact, where it's like, oh, he's not doing it right, but he thinks he is.
That's just another like great like padding in joke there. And also I love that there's seemingly no scientific explanation. It's just drink salt and water.
Yeah,
It just does.
It's the biggest screw you. Just like that. That's the cure. Just salt and water together.
But yes, Freakazoid drinks it. He is cured, and we get a happy ending.
Dexter, where have you been?
Oh, my hand got stuck in the potty. I know this hasn't been a very good day.
Are you kidding? It's been great.
Huh?
Did you see the Loeb's musical number? It was fantastic. And then he and Freakazoid did this whole routine. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, so you've had a good time?
Well, yeah. Mwah.
Have a good time now.
We'll get one more of those after the credits. So she was just always there.
Yeah, they're there the whole time, waving the entire time as the cops came by. But it definitely feels like an older Dexter scene of him like passing out from a kiss on the cheek from the cute girl. And I do like that he loves his outie belly button, but I think really he's just going to live all the time and the rest of his life is Freakazoid. That's what I see. Eventually he just goes like, why am I Dexter ever? I like being Freakazoid.
You know, it was called, I mean, we've all talked about Jokerification. What about Freakazoidication? Where the internet turned us all into Freakazoid. We're all crazy now.
You know what? That is more accurate than Jokerifying for our experience. Like literally internet poisoned by irony and just going like, hey, remember this show? Remember that? I'm going to watch Rat Patrol. I don't want to watch other stuff.
Freakazoid was an early lesson in internet poisoning, although it didn't give us superpowers. It all made us mentally ill.
Yeah. Well, isn't that really Freakazoid's superpower?
I guess he is a lunatic.
Yeah, he is a lunatic. Yeah, there's one last gag in the credits that you mentioned. It's on screen for a third of a second.
Ooh,
it must be.
May I read it to you?
Yes, please.
Okay. So there's always a gag in the credits, like Animaniacs and Tiny Toons. Often it's just one line. Here it fills the entire screen. So I will read this to you in the final credits of Freakazoid of this episode. One time, a spaceship full of aliens came down and kidnapped our writing staff. The aliens threatened to blow up the Earth with a solenite bomb unless the writing staff wrote a big splashy musical number for the Loeb. The writing staff worked for days on the song. The aliens were so pleased with it, they agreed not to blow up the Earth. So the next time someone says, I don't know why they did that real long musical number in Freakazoid, you can tell them. You can tell them of the time a ragtag group of cartoon writers saved the Earth from destruction, and that each new day that dawns over this great big blue planet of ours is due to these brave individuals.
I love that. I love it. So that's so funny. It's also normally those credit gags are like they're in the lower third or something. They're not the entire screen, but this is like it's so long.
They realized they needed to acknowledge it, I think.
But it is in one of their quickest VCR pause gags too. Like it's not meant to. That type of joke lives on in most YouTube video essays that have. And I'm not saying they're not funny when they happen, but almost every YouTube video essay, I'm ready for like, okay, when's the giant wall of text on screen going to appear, and I'm going to have to pause and read all this extra context. But God, that whole thing is just like, so that's why we saved your life with this incredibly long thing. So thank every day you have.
But once again, according to Paul Rugg, we thought it was funny and no one said we couldn't. So
yes, easy,
that's the real explanation.
I wish that kind of shit existed now. I think people are too invested in all these shows that they don't say it enough that you can't do it. I will, maybe that is why he wanted to do the Teen Titans Go show, because I will say when I've watched a lot of Teen Titans Go, I'm like, it feels like nobody told you not to do something.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. I've mostly ignored the show because I watched the first Teen Titans. I didn't really care, but I know this one is way different, but it does feel a lot zanier. And when I was tweeting about this Loeby scene in Freakazoid, people were telling me Teen Titans does similar things. Maybe not to this extent of alienating an audience, but still, they do some pretty goofy stuff.
I mean, even in the background of that Teen Titans Hugbees episode, there's a reference to Boron. Like, a character's wearing the Boron helmet, and well, like the episode that comes right before Hugbees in Teen Titans Go is the Beetlejuice episode, and it is very long and involved in Beetlejuice referencing.
I'm just learning this.
You need to watch this Beetlejuice episode. And the voice actor they get for I've said his name too many times now, but the voice they get for him is the performer of him in the Broadway musical recently. So it's not Keaton, but
I was hoping for the Canadian Beetlejuice from the cartoon.
Oh, there's a few Canadian Beetlejuice cartoon references, though. I bet Nelvana owns like the those other characters, so they don't appear, but there's some references. You're gonna want to watch that one, Bob, for sure.
Maybe coming soon, Beetlejuice to What a Cartoon.
I think so.
I was a huge fan of that show.
In 2021, we will do a Beetlejuice. It was gross, but I liked it as a kid. It wasn't my favorite, but I definitely liked
it. He ate those bugs off screen just for you, Henry.
It was his fingernails. The way they drew his red fingernails like grossed me out.
Well, he's a corpse.
But anyway, maybe the best episode of Freakazoid there is.
I think so.
The most indulgent thing the Spielberg Warner Animation people ever did. Even more so than a episode-long Kon-Tiki joke in Tiny Toons. I think it's more obscure than that.
And the Pokemon Sun is on the horizon. They're just about to stop getting away with these things.
Yeah, and Spielberg's busy with DreamWorks SKG. He can't spend as much time on the Amblin stuff. So it's Paul Rugg is about to leave for one Saturday morning as well with all of his other buddies. So it's an end of an era, but that's what I love. They went out with a bang. They start the season with a 4-minute long parody of Hello Dolly. They end the season with them just singing We'll Meet Again in both a big Hollywood Bowl musical number, but also a reference to one of the greatest films of all time, Dr. Strangelove. And so, God, it's what a way to go out. I just got to give it. I got to give it to Freakazoid in that way.
We didn't mention it, but the DVDs for this are out of print. They miraculously got 2 DVD sets for each season, but I was able to find it also on Amazon Prime, and it might be on HBO Max at some point because technically they do own it.
It ought to be, but I get a feeling HBO Max likes to prune their hedges of it. They don't want to give you everything. Like they took them forever to put the frickin' all the mainline DCAU shows on there. And actually that's a lie because Superman still isn't on there.
Oh, come on.
I think it's because they haven't HD'd it up and they don't know if they want to fully remaster it or not because it's not as popular as Batman or Batman Beyond. But it totally deserves a full remaster.
Just put it on there.
Yeah. But yeah. So much fun to go back to Freakazoid, and I hope you guys enjoy this one.
Yes, we were self-indulgent just like them.
Yeah.
We learned it by watching them. But yes, thanks for listening to What a Cartoon, folks. If you want to support the show and get all these episodes 1 week at a time and ad-free, please go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. Sign up there, you'll get just that, but also access to everything behind the $5 paywall that includes so many podcasts, numerous bonus podcasts, over 100 at this point. And of course, that includes all of our limited miniseries. The most recent one that we did was Talking Futurama Season 2, Part 2, and coming very, very soon at the end of March, we're going to start doing Talking of the Hill Season 2 Part 1. That's 11 new episodes of Talking of the Hill for everyone behind the $5 paywall, and that's coming to you very, very soon. But we also have a $10 level at the Patreon at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. Sign up there, you get all the $5 stuff, of course, but also access to one mega-long podcast once a month, only for patrons of that level or higher.
Yes, that's the What a Cartoon movie podcast that Bob's talking about. Perhaps you have heard the free previews in your What a Cartoon feed. Well, you're missing out on the full thing if you're not a $10 and up subscriber who also gets all the $5 things Bob just mentioned. You want to hear recent ones like coming this month, the DuckTales movie. Before that, 4.5 hours of us talking about Whisper of the Heart, the Ghibli classic. Before that, the end of Evangelion, Dexter's Lab Ego Trip, and a giant back catalog of stuff. If you liked this talk, well, I bet you'd love hearing our one about Tiny Toon Adventures, how I spent my vacation, or a Goofy movie, and way more. So please, if you sign up at $10 a month at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons, you can hear an entire 2 years back catalog of us talking about animated feature films the same way we do on here. Patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons.
So I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Twitter as Bob Servo. My other podcast, by the way, is Retronauts. It's a classic gaming podcast about old video games. Find that wherever you find podcasts, or go to patreon.com/Retronauts for 2 full-length bonus episodes every month. Henry, how about you?
Follow me on Twitter at HENEREYG. I'm always tweeting up fun things there. And you should also follow on Twitter at TalkSimpsonsPod. At TalkSimpsonsPod is the official Twitter account of the Talking Simpsons network of podcasts that includes What a Cartoon and Talking Simpsons. If you want to stay up to date when new podcasts go live on the free feeds or on Patreon or whenever there's news in the world of our podcast, please follow on Twitter at TalkSimpsonsPod.
Thanks so much for listening, folks. We'll see you next time for the Eek the Cat episode, Great Balls of Fur, and we will see you then.